Hey friends, welcome back to the Inner Experience podcast. I'm your host, Sam Asa, and I'm here to bring you heart-opening conversations to bring you deeper into your own inner world, your inner experience, so that you become more and more you and less of who you think you need to be. And I just come off a podcast interview. It was such an inspiring conversation. It's coming to you next week, but I wanted to just firstly sit here and I've been sitting here and letting it all sink in. And what I'm noticing is this really beautiful reflection of the seat that I'm sitting in right now. And I don't mean literally sitting in. It's this seat of being. And what I'm noticing is, although I would have definitely associated that to my feminine practice prior to now, working with my coach right now, it's actually reclaiming my masculine essence, my healthy divine masculine essence, which is honoring space and time and presence and sitting in nothingness. And that nothingness creates this space and this freedom to be able to flow within the space of nothingness, which is the feminine, the yin and the yang flowing together, the ebb and the flow. And as I've been sitting in the space of nothingness and really connecting to my being by literally doing nothing, and I feel like in the past when I've been trying to just be, I've had a really big struggle with like being, right? Like just be. Like I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? And I feel like I've had instances where I've really surrendered into that space, and it's been at such a profound time of me not knowing I'm there that I don't recognize it. So then when I'm trying to actually do the being, I can't do it because it's not something you need to do. It's just something you need to surrender into. And I've really been surrendering consciously and subconsciously into that state of just being, that I've loved the space of nothingness. I've loved the creating more space to do less. I've liked decluttering my life, as we spoke about with Heston in the last podcast. And I've loved, I've created and seen ways in which I've really done this, especially this year of 2020, really done this in my life. I've as a practice, I had to, in my polarity practice and intimacy practice with my coaches, I had to practice letting go of taking the lead, and which is like loosening the grip around my control. And what I found so fascinating that I've been reflecting on is that I really started doing this in my relationships, in my friendships, in my the way that I relate to other people in life. And I loosened and I stopped being the person that has been taking the lead. Oh. And it's come with such grace and ease. But what I've noticed is this profound way it's created a lot of space in my life because of the way things just completely drop off. The way that I was perhaps the one driving a friendship forward, or pushing a friendship forward, or holding on to a friendship, or being the one that just initiates. There's no death of relationship in some instances. They're still there. It's just there's nothing needing to happen because I've let go of needing to make something happen with it. And then there's ones that have completely died because I've let go of taking the lead, of reaching out, of doing the things, of being that initiator. And it's really interesting to see what is left. And it's really quite liberating to see the quality and the depth that it enhances when you stop needing to fill it or needing to force something that doesn't want to be forced. And like I said, that doesn't mean that it's now put in this category of bad and it's no longer there. It's like this, it's just nothingness. It's just this space of existing where if the impulse or the response was there for me to then make something happen with it, then it's there, but there's no needing to force or push that. And as I've let go of taking the lead, then there's so much space that it's created for just being. And I hope that's making sense, because it's actually just like a realization that I've only really had recently. Like, I've seen this play out, I've seen this happen, but I haven't actually known that it's happening in this way, if that makes sense. And what I've really it's come at a beautiful time of when I'm putting so much more of an emphasis in healing on my ability to connect in community and who I want to spend my time around, the energy that I'm allowing into my life, and to be a huge part of that, because any energy that we're surrounded by, that we're letting in, that we're investing in, is having a huge influence and impact on our life. And that can mean the people in your surrounding influences, that can mean the things that you choose to listen to and watch and take in on a daily basis. Whatever it is, like, that becomes that begins to influence and impact your life, and we don't realize this. And so the inner circle, if you like, is so key in order for you to actually become the woman or the man or the human that you're becoming. And I've really realized this recently, and I think I've spoken about it now in a lot of different episodes, but that is a huge part of just creating this space to just simply be and become, by letting go of the force and the push of taking the lead in areas that just don't want to be, don't need to be energized anymore. They just need to be what they are, and they just need to exist, or they just need to now dissolve. And as much as that feels, and that could come across as this like grieving or letting go or death process, it's actually quite a liberating and expansive process of realizing that we're impermanent, that we change, that we're dynamic. And as we move in swift and flow, then people and places and things come in and out of our space, depending on what we need in that moment, and depending on what is serving our greatest and highest good. And I was talking to someone recently around, she's like, you seem to have this thing where you can unattach really easily. And I haven't always been like that, but I think my philosophy and understanding of impermanence, and the way it feels in my body to just believe that everything's for now, and to not be so attached to outcomes, knowing that when they're supposed to come back in, if they're supposed to come back in, they will, then it allows us to move with more grace and find us exactly where we're supposed to be, instead of resisting something that could be really beneficial to our growth into our life. And I actually remember experiencing this feeling when I was letting go of a long-term relationship now, like 5 years ago. And I remember us being in this limbo land of not being able to let go. And I remember the thought pattern of saying out loud, look, I think that if we're supposed to be together, then we will be. And we just need to let go right now and realize that our paths will cross again if they're supposed to. And it was just that liberation of realizing, like, everything is for now. And if we let go right now, that's okay. And if we're supposed to be, then our paths will cross. It was literally that feeling that I felt in my body, and being okay to let go, because I had that truth hit me. And then I started taking on that philosophy of everything is for now. We have no idea, like 1 minute, our life looks a certain way, and all of a sudden we turn the corner and it looks completely different. And that's the beautiful thing about life, is that it is impermanent, is that there's so much uncertainty and unknown that creates for a life that is exciting and evokes curiosity and evokes us to want to push the veils on what's possible, because we have no idea of the possibility that's on the other side. So with that being said, I wanted to share this kind of seat that I'm sitting in, and it's really taking me to honor my beingness, to honor my nothingness, and the divine masculine, that space that I can sit in to really activate my feminine, which is the yin yang balance, if you're not familiar with that language. But also honoring my no. I had the most incredible experience recently with one of my best friends in the whole world, of us wanting to hang out and connect. And we had this date planned, and it was all in the diary. And on the day I was having it was a bit of a chaotic morning, and then it was a bit of a flow state that I was in. And then all these things happened. And then I was going through a lot of processing in my mind. And I was like, actually, I'm in this really introverted state. And my honoring my no would be like, I don't want to hang out with anyone right now. Like, I just want to be in my space. And so I just sent her the message, and it was like no big deal. I didn't even think twice about it. I was like, hey, I'm actually feeling super introverted today. I'm in my own world. I'd much rather just say no to our hangout today and reschedule. And she replied with, I'm so happy that you know that you felt comfortable to say no, to comfortable to honor your truth. And I was like, wow, and I was like, oh, just because we have that relationship, no big deal. And then we had a conversation after, and she said, by you honoring your no, you actually freed up this space that I had saved for you for me to actually work out that I had all these things I needed to do. And then this other thing happened that wouldn't have happened if you had been here, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, when we honor our no, we're not actually honoring just our no, we're honoring the actual collective thing that's supposed to be taking place when we honor where we're supposed to be. And I feel like so much of even my life in the past, but so much of people's life is people pleasing and doing things that we don't actually want to do, which is then not only impacting our life and what we want to actually be doing, but it's actually impacting the people that we're forcing into. And my best friend gave this beautiful analogy of like, if someone calls you up for coffee and you're kind of like, ugh, okay, yeah, may as well. Like, I feel like I should. I'm obligated to do that because they've asked me for coffee and I haven't seen them for 6 months and blah, blah, blah. And then so you do the thing, but it's out of this like pleasing obligation place. Then you're now taking up their space, where if you honored your no, and even though they're in this subconscious state, even if you honored your no, you've now freed up that space for them to have had a meeting with somebody else who they're supposed to meet in that time, or like going somewhere else where they're supposed to go to lead to the next thing. And I think that is such a beautiful analogy and realization of when it's not a selfish thing when we honor our no and we do the thing that our body and our soul and our heart and our mind is asking for. It's like, it's now honoring the whole spectrum that's involved in that. And that is like kind of mind-blowing when you think about the whole breaking the paradigm of people pleasing, right? And so I've been really honoring my no. I've been honoring my no, this doesn't feel right to spend time with this person right now because I just don't have the capacity for it. I've had to have conversations recently with a lot of people actually where I've said, hey, by the way, like, I'm totally cool. Like, I'm maybe the best that I've ever been in a long time. I just don't have the capacity right now for filling my week and my days with so much stuff, like so many things, even if they're to do with something that really lights me up and connecting with people that I love and blah, blah, blah. Nothing to do with the other person and nothing to do with me being like me struggling or any of these things. It's like, I'm actually in this amazing space. However, I'm also really empowered to honor what's true for me in the moment. And that's probably the key thing here is like, I'm honoring what's true for me in the moment. And, somebody asked recently, and I talk about it in the podcast next week, more in depth, but around how do you build trust and safety in your own body? Well, I think it starts by acknowledging what's true for you in the moment and honoring that. It's like following through in that. It's like integrity, right? It's like doing the thing that you say you're going to do. And I think once we practice that stuff, then you start to trust yourself more. It's the same as a relationship or a friendship or a partnership. It's like the way that you build trust is by filling up. I think it's Brene Brown talks about like the marble jar. It's like they do the thing and you fill up this jar of marbles because they're building your trust. It's like you need to start to do that within yourself first. Like, and how does that happen? Well, you honor the things in the moment that you need, because then your whole soul is saying, oh my God, thank you for honoring that thing. Thank you for doing that for me. I trust you. Like, I love you. And then I think if you can build that within yourself, then holy shit, you have a higher chance of being able to trust others, because you actually feel that sense of safety and trust within your body. You know what it feels like. And so if you feel that within yourself, and then somebody else does something that feels that same way, then all of a sudden your mind is connecting to reinforcing trust. And therefore what can happen is you start to heal the wounds around trust that a lot of us have from how we were brought into the world, or what was happening before, or what's happened as we've grown. And so I think starting there is starting with honoring your no, starting with honoring what's true for you in the moment, honoring like literally as a practice. Like I invite you to like let go of taking the lead in your life. I mean, maybe I shouldn't say that to everyone, because all of a sudden no one would be hanging out because everyone's waiting for everyone else. But more so than that, this is what I've been practicing. It's a very beautiful masculine practice of sitting in the nothingness and then moving from impulse. So my coach would teach me to just sit and be and find that state of nothingness. And then when you get an impulse to do something, do that thing. So if I'm sitting in nothingness and then I'm like just like here, and there's just space, and I'm just like, oh, like just feeling the sensitive. I go really sensitive when I'm in that space. Like I feel my elbows tingling, or I feel like that breeze that's hitting my cheekbone. Oh, I'm feeling like the shiver go down my spine. Like you just get really sensitive to the moment. And then I go, oh, I want to go and see my pa. Or I'm like, oh, I'd love to tell this person how much I appreciate them. Or like you just feel that impulse to then do the next thing. And then I think that's the key. It's like instead of forcing something that you feel like you need to because of whatever story is attached to that, it's moving on the impulse of the moment. And it's truly, truly liberating. So I really wanted to just share that today, share a practice, share that what was true for me in this moment. I had no intentions of doing a podcast little segment right now. I was actually in the middle of something else when I sat in nothingness, and this was streaming out of me. So I was like, this is relevant. This is highly relevant to questions that have been pouring in at the moment, and to conversations I've been having, and to really inviting us into a deeper experience with our inner world, which is essentially and ultimately creating our outer world. And so what can we do? Well, we can build that relationship by doing these things, and doing the things that are hard, but recognizing that it's impermanent and it's changing and it's dynamic. And this might be working really well for me right now. And I'm really sinking into the deliciousness of being, and into the simplicity of my life, and the way that I'm decluttering it. And it's moving me from impulse, from a great place, and connecting me to who I'm supposed to be connected to. And yet tomorrow that might be different. And that's the joy and beauty and magic of life. And so I hope that helps you in any way. I'd love to know what's lighting you up right now, and what you're musing on, and what you want to hear more of. And so hit me up, and please subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already, because I'd love for you to join me in next week's conversation, where we move deeper into this, into trust, into self-regulation through the nervous system, into honoring the moment, into building trust and safety in your body. The conversation is pure medicine. I hope to see you there. Lots of love, my friends.